Have you heard about the modern rebuilding of the Tower of Babel? Scripture testifies to us about the disastrous results of men working together using a common language and attempting to build a tall tower into the sky in order for man to be like God. And in that scenario, God destroyed their plans and their universal language and scrambled the people so that they were speaking languages undecipherable to each other. So let me ask you a question. Do you think Yahowah God really cares how many floors we put into a skyscraper? Or do you think he's more concerned about what's in our hearts? You see, building a tall building to allow, for example, more families to have refuge in is fine, but building a monument to humanism is not fine. In the 2016 election cycle, we see a clear choice of nationalism versus globalism, and dare I say also between monotheism and humanism. So while in the past men and women of many countries have built tall towers for their own countries, what we see in Hillary Clinton is her longing for globalism and many of the tenets of humanism. In contrast, Donald Trump claims to stand for nationalism. So whether or not there are tall towers in the globalist New World Order, there is an insidious plan afoot to rebuild a modern-day Tower of Babel of a single world nation and possibly a one-world language. And quite possibly that universal language is already here, found in the computer language of binary code and modern translation software that allows everyone on Earth to communicate with other inhabitants of the planet nearly instantaneously. Recently, I was interviewed by WND.com about this very topic. Following are a few excerpts from that article and my comments in that article. Quote, "Globalism is not a biblical concept," says Pastor Carl Gallups. Gallups, an expert in eschatology and author of the new book, When the Lion Roars, Understanding the Implications of Ancient Prophecies for Our Time. Gallups argues there is deep spiritual significance in the contemporary push for one world government. The only attempts at achieving globalism presented in the Bible, Gallup said, were destroyed or dispersed by Yahowah God. We are also informed through warnings of ancient scripture, end-time prophecies, that a globalist spirit and leader will be the defining characteristic of the days of great tribulation that are eventually to come upon the whole earth. And this anti-Messiah or antichrist system, which includes globalism, is presented to us as the epitome of evil, which will ultimately be destroyed by the prophesied coming of Messiah. That same WND.com article went on to say, though it is not seen as popular in the mainstream media, Carl Gallups argues the principle of nationalism is actually strongly supported in ancient Hebrew scriptures. Gallup says separate nations provide a kind of relief valve for the oppressed to flee to. The United States in particular, Gallup says, has long served as a refuge for people around the world. But where would people have to run if it were a single world nation under ungodly, despotic rule? For this very reason, warned Gallups, the powers of darkness have attempted to destroy the concept of a sovereign America ever since its inception. Extraordinary events predicted centuries in advance are unfolding now before our eyes, and details of these events are covered in my new book, my latest book, When the Lion Roars, Understanding the Implications of Ancient Prophecies for Our Time. That book is available now in the WND Superstore. By the way, our special thanks to WND Books and to WND.com for granting permission to use excerpts of their texts for this video.